Just last week, Huawei announced something that was previously thought physically impossible. They managed to hit a 1.4 nanometer transistor size, and they did it without any advanced equipment, all while operating under the tightest, most brutal tech sanctions in history. This announcement triggered straight-up panic, not just in Silicon Valley, but in Washington, D.C., because this breakthrough doesn't just turn the entire semiconductor industry upside down, it turns the US from the absolute tech leader into the one playing catch-up. For the last 60 years, the entire industry has poured trillions of dollars into making transistors smaller and smaller. But recently, we've hit a brick wall, the physical limit of Moore's law. For the past few years, chip progress has relied purely on shifting architectures and just cramming more transistors onto a piece of silicon. Huawei's engineers, however, seem to have found a way to smash right through that barrier. They realized that to win this race, you don't need to shrink size, you need to shrink time. Today, we're breaking down the presentation of these cutting-edge Chinese chips to figure out how one clever, unexpected engineering trick could change the microchip industry forever, and why, right now, we might actually be witnessing the death of the classic processor. To really understand the hype, we need to go back to 2019. That was the year when, under pressure from Washington, the Dutch government banned ASML from selling its EUV machines to Huawei. ASML is the only company on the planet that actually knows how to build equipment for extreme ultraviolet lithography. These are the machines that print the smallest transistors on Earth, the very ones powering today's 3 nanometer and 2 nanometer chips. A single machine costs hundreds of millions of dollars and is widely considered the absolute pinnacle of human engineering. The logic behind the sanctions was simple. No EUV, no cutting-edge chips. Huawei would hit a ceiling. The tech gap between them and the industry leaders would widen year after year, and eventually it would become impossible to close. And for a while, it looked like that's exactly what was going to happen. But Huawei, teaming up with Chinese chipmaker SMIC, started squeezing every last drop of performance out of DUV, the previous generation of equipment. Its light beams can't print features as fine as the new EUV systems can. So the companies got creative and leaned into multiple patterning. Instead of etching a complex design all at once, you break it down into several simpler ones. You print the first layer, etch away the excess, lay down the second layer, etch again. In the end, these legacy machines turn out structures way finer than their creators ever intended. That's exactly how SMIC pulled off what many consider the equivalent of a 7 nanometer process. It was a brilliant engineering workaround, but it comes with a massive catch. More steps, more defects, and way higher costs. More importantly, you eventually run into a hard physical limit. When features get too microscopic, the light from those old DUV machines just can't deliver a sharp enough image, and the layers start blurring together. At that point, the trick simply stops working. That's when Huawei had to ask a completely different question. What if the future isn't about making transistors smaller at all? What if this whole time the industry has been optimizing the wrong thing? Huawei's answer takes a direct shot at the most sacred rule in the silicon world, Moore's law. And to understand their logic, you have to look at why this exact rule drove the tech giants straight into a dead end. For decades, the industry followed one simple recipe: shrink the transistor, pack more of them into the same area, and get more performance for less money. Roughly every 2 years, the number of transistors on a chip doubled. In a nutshell, that's Moore's law. Except Moore's law isn't a law of physics at all. It was just an observation by one of Intel's co-founders that the industry turned into a sacred vow. And for nearly 60 years, they kept that promise. Entire roadmaps, investment cycles, and product generations were built around keeping up with that exact pace. To really get a sense of the scale here, take a look at your hand. The earliest transistors were about the size of a fingernail. Today, a smartphone chip is barely larger than a fingernail itself. But packed inside is an entire world. 20 billion transistors, each thousands of times thinner than a human hair. It's like squeezing the population of a massive country onto the tip of a needle. But this phenomenal race had a dark side. It conditioned everyone to buy into a toxic idea that progress is strictly about transistor size. Smaller equals better, period. And today, that formula is starting to break. Progress is no longer doubling. The efficiency gains with each new generation are shrinking, while the costs are skyrocketing out of proportion. Take TSMC's upcoming A14 process, for example. They're fighting for just a measly 6% reduction in chip area. The industry used to expect near twofold leaps. Now, the best engineers in the world are killing themselves over a few single-digit percentages. The magic just isn't there anymore. Which raises a completely fair question. What if we've been fighting the wrong battle this whole time? And this is where things get really interesting, because there's a fact here that very few people actually realize. Modern computers hit a bottleneck a long time ago, and it's not the actual computing anymore. More and more, they're limited by distance. According to Huawei's data, in modern systems, over 80% of the energy is completely wasted just moving data around. Think about that for a second. A massive data center spends most of its power not on actually thinking, but on shuffling information from point A to point B. To understand where this comes from, imagine a modern chip as a giant city of transistors. All of these transistors are connected by a colossal network of microscopic metal roads woven through more than 20 layers. Every single signal has to travel through these wires, but every wire comes with its own baggage. First, there's resistance. It slows the signal down. Second, there's capacitance. The wire acts like a tiny parasitic battery that has to be charged and discharged every single time data passes through it. And the longer the path, the worse both of these metrics get. Combined, these losses are called RC delay. Basically, the time a signal loses just traveling through the wires. The paradox is that even when a transistor gets smaller and switches faster, the overall circuit can actually end up slower because the wires between those transistors didn't go anywhere. The numbers here are brutal. For nodes below 10 nanometers, the signal delay in the main interconnect wires can be 10 times longer than the switching time of the transistor itself. 10 times! This is exactly why processor clock speeds have been stuck around 3 to 4 gigahertz for years, even though the transistor count keeps climbing. The bottom line? The industry spent over 60 years shrinking transistors, but the biggest bottleneck the entire time was the distance between them. Huawei realized this and decided to stop building out and start building up. In other words, they stopped trying to optimize nanometers and started optimizing nanoseconds. In the presentation, they called this concept tau scaling, named after the Greek letter tau, which engineers use to represent time. The core idea is simple. Since we can no longer easily shrink transistors on a flat surface, we need to cut down the time a signal spends traveling between them. It sounds simple, but it completely shifts the focus for engineers and breaks the old rules. Now, they have the freedom to arrange chip components in entirely new ways. The boundaries between different chips are starting to blur, opening up the third dimension. Think of it like building a house. You can try to cram everything onto a single floor, or you can just build a second story on top. Huawei calls this concept logic folding, and the best analogy here is a regular piece of paper. Take a large sheet of paper and fold it in half. Points that were just far away from each other suddenly become next-door neighbors. Huawei wants to do the exact same thing with processor logic. On a standard flat chip, logical blocks sit side by side, and signals have to race across the silicon, sometimes traveling several centimeters or over an inch. With logic folding, these blocks are split across different layers and stacked directly on top of each other. What used to require millimeters of travel now takes just a few microns, 1,000 times less, because the signal goes straight up. And the most critical part here is the timing. They aren't just stacking finished chips at the end of the production line. They're designing them this way from scratch. Engineers track down the longest, slowest data paths that drag down the entire processor and immediately fold them vertically. On paper, the idea sounds incredibly convincing, but in practice, there's a massive roadblock that has kept other companies from rushing into this. How do you get these layers of silicon to talk to each other almost instantly? If you slice a processor into multiple floors, data has to fly between them billions of times a second. Otherwise, instead of speeding things up, you just create a massive new traffic jam. And that means Huawei needs a way to create a colossal number of ultra-fast connections between those folded layers of silicon. This is arguably the most critical part of the entire presentation. Huawei is claiming a hybrid bonding pitch of just 1.5 microns. It's easy to get confused here. We're all used to marketing buzzwords like 2 nanometers, so hearing microns sounds like a massive step backward. But you have to understand the difference. Nanometers measure the size of microscopic transistors on a flat plane. 1.5 microns, on the other hand, is the distance between the vertical contacts that stitch these planes together into a 3D layer cake. When it comes to chip-to-chip connections, a 1.5 micron pitch represents extreme near-record density. Imagine stacking 2 silicon dies on top of each other and sewing them together with millions, potentially billions of microscopic copper-to-copper contacts. The denser these connections are, the more data you can pump between the layers. At a certain point, 2 separate layers start acting like a single unified chip. Today's industry standard for 3D logic sits around 9 to 10 microns. AMD's 3D V-Cache uses a pitch of about 9 microns, and Intel and TSMC are in that exact same ballpark. Yet Huawei is claiming 1.5 to 2 microns, and they're saying they can hit a manufacturing yield close to 100%. According to the company, there's virtually zero production waste. If these numbers hold up in mass production, it'll be a game changer. But for this magic to work, engineers have to obey a strict rule of physics. Imagine a massive office floor. If there's only one elevator to the other floors and it's stuck all the way at the end of the hallway, people are going to spend forever just walking back and forth. The vertical vias in a chip have to be peppered everywhere, literally a couple of steps away from any given element. Only then can a signal instantly dive to the next floor without wasting time traveling horizontally. Every time you shrink the bonding pitch, you need entirely new manufacturing tools, new fabrication processes, and new recipes for assembly and testing. That's why this specific part of Huawei's roadmap is what we need to watch incredibly closely over the next few years. If this 1.5 micron pitch is real and scalable, that is the actual breakthrough. Now you might be asking yourself, wait, aren't chips already stacked on top of each other? And you're right, 3D stacking is hardly anything new. HBM memory is literally a stack of 12 ultra-thin silicon wafers. Graphics cards have been placing memory directly on top of the main GPU core for years. AMD slaps cache right on top of its processors. Chiplets, vertical stacking, all of this has been around for a while. But that is not what Huawei is doing here, and the difference is fundamental. With standard 3D stacking, every single chip is initially designed as a flat, two-dimensional plane. Only later, during manufacturing, are these finished chips stacked into a silicon sandwich and packaged together. The internal architecture of each individual die was never originally drawn up with the vertical dimension in mind. Logic folding starts way earlier, right at the layout phase, when engineers are first sketching out the chip's circuitry. While you're still in the design phase, you hunt down the tightest timing loops and fold them vertically right then and there. In other words, it's not about folding a finished product, it's about designing it to be folded, and that makes all the difference. Sounds great on paper, right? But what does it actually mean in hard numbers? Let's look at Huawei's presentation, with one massive caveat that we'll get back to in a bit. We still don't have any independent confirmation of this data. Take Huawei's previous gen chip. Its density sits at around 155 million transistors per square millimeter. That is literally squeezing an empire onto a poppy seed. To get to that number from 125 million, it took their team 3 long years. That's roughly a 23% gain over 3 years. Solid, sure, but it's exactly the pattern you'd expect when geometric scaling on legacy lithography hits a brick wall. Now look at the Kirin 2026 with built-in logic folding. The claimed density is a staggering 238 million transistors per square millimeter. That's a 53% jump in a single generation. A 53% leap in one step is exactly the kind of breakneck pace the classic Moore's Law promised back in its glory days. For context, current estimates show that TSMC's N2 node, one of the most advanced manufacturing processes on the planet, delivers around 236 million transistors per square millimeter. Huawei, using tech that everyone had already written off, is matching the world leaders, if they can actually pull it off, that is. But it's not just about density. Because signals can now travel vertically, the chip needs roughly half as many clock buffers, the specific elements that synchronize the processor and keep its heartbeat steady. Fewer buffers mean less wasted surface area and less power needed to keep them running. Signal latency across different parts of the processor dropped by a quarter, meaning the chip runs more stably and closer to its real limits. Meanwhile, the average distance data has to travel inside the chip was slashed by 60%. It's the exact same logic, just packed into a much tighter footprint. To put it simply, fewer sync elements, less lag, and shorter data paths. Every single one of these factors directly boosts speed and power efficiency. And that brings us to the headline metric from the presentation. The performance core clocks in at 3.1 gigahertz. Almost no one believed this was possible. For a company under heavy sanctions, locked out of ASML's top-tier gear, crossing the 3 gigahertz line was considered a pipe dream. Consistently holding speeds north of 3 gigahertz requires a level of interconnect precision that everyone assumed was impossible without cutting-edge lithography. Most of the industry had written Huawei off on this front a long time ago. Beyond that, their future ambitions are even wilder. By scaling this folding technique across the entire chip, Huawei is aiming for 5 gigahertz and a density equivalent to 1.4 nanometers by 2031. For comparison, the absolute best mobile processors today clock out between 3.7 and 4.3 gigahertz. Sure, desktop chips from Intel and AMD can push 5 to 6 gigahertz, but they do it with power draws and cooling setups that have absolutely no business being inside a smartphone. Holding a stable 5 gigahertz in a mobile chip under a reasonable power envelope? Right now, that sounds like straight up science fiction. On paper, everything looks like a total victory. But now, let's break down 3 massive headaches that companies rarely like to talk about during glitzy presentations. Problem number 1, design tools. For decades, the entire world's chip design software has been built strictly for flat microchips. Trying to design a vertical chip using that software is like trying to build a skyscraper with a tool that only knows how to draw a 1-story house. The program literally doesn't understand that components can sit directly on top of each other, and it has no idea how to calculate how they'll interfere with one another. Logic folding requires a fundamentally different set of methodologies and EDA tools. Right now, Huawei has only built the most basic preliminary frameworks, and one of the reasons the company is making so much noise about this is likely an attempt to push the broader industry into adopting these tools and helping develop them. This means that even if the concept is 100% correct, there is a hard limit on how fast it can actually be deployed in the real world. Problem number 2, heat. The more active logic layers you stack on top of each other, the harder it gets to pull heat away from the chip. Slapping memory on top is relatively easy because it's passive, but logic switches billions of times a second and gets insanely hot. By stacking active logic vertically, you're concentrating massive amounts of power into a microscopic volume. Performance goes up, but so does the temperature. Inside a thin smartphone body, a chip like this could overheat fast, forcing the processor to throttle its speed to a crawl just to keep the device from melting. Huawei's immediate target isn't a data center chip. The Kirin is a smartphone processor. A data center can afford bulky, aggressive cooling systems. Inside a phone, that's a luxury you just don't have. Huawei openly calls heat dissipation one of the biggest roadblocks in its entire roadmap. If you have to pick just one thing from this whole presentation to watch like a hawk, it's thermal management. Solve this, and the roadmap looks incredibly exciting. Fail to solve it, and the whole idea starts to fall apart. Problem number 3, and the most nuanced one, is honest terminology. Huawei keeps talking about a density equivalent to 1.4 nanometers, but that does not mean they're printing transistors using an actual 1.4 nanometer process. What's actually happening is different. They take 2 separate layers of silicon, each manufactured using a mature node, say 7 nanometer or 6 nanometer technology, and stack them. As a result, you get the same number of transistors per unit of volume as a cutting-edge 1.4 nanometer process would give you. The figure is real, but it's achieved through an architectural workaround, not by actually shrinking the transistors themselves. This is a critical distinction. A true next-gen node doesn't just provide density, it delivers faster, more power-efficient transistors on their own. Here, the transistors remain exactly the same. The only thing changing is how they are packed in space. It's solid engineering and maybe even genius, but calling it 1.4 nanometers without any asterisks is just blurring the lines between 2 completely different concepts. For now, all of this data remains nothing more than Huawei's corporate claims, and we haven't seen any independent benchmarks yet. And now we come to the real question. What is actually driving this story? The simplest interpretation is geopolitical. Huawei got cut off from advanced machinery and found a loophole to bypass the sanctions. It's the classic semiconductor Cold War drama that everyone loves to click on. And yeah, as a storyline, it's completely true, but it feels like we're missing something much bigger here. Moore's Law was nearing its end anyway. Those EUV machines that the sanctions are meant to block, they can't scale forever either. Silicon is made of atoms, and a chip component cannot be smaller than a single atom. At current transistor sizes, the industry has already pushed right up to the edge, where shrinking things further is becoming nearly impossible. Not because of money, but because of the laws of physics. Everyone saw the wall coming, they were just looking at it from different angles. That's what's truly fascinating here. Huawei, even if it's just on paper for now, has shown that a parallel path leads to the exact same goal. The West is developing 3D chips while enjoying access to cutting-edge tools and tech. Huawei arrived at that same path because of the sanctions. They were forced to squeeze everything they could out of legacy equipment. And the big question for the coming years is, won't both of these paths end up in the exact same place? And what if a forced workaround by one company ends up becoming the next chapter for the entire industry? Will Huawei, hitting 5 GHz without advanced lithography, be playing in the same league as TSMC at 1 nanometer? Can China close the gap with the global leaders at all? That is the ultimate question of this entire saga, and we won't get the answer from presentations. We'll get it when the chips announced in 2026 actually hit store shelves and run through real-world benchmarks. But what do you guys think? Is this a genuine breakthrough that's about to rewrite the rules? Or is it just a glitzy presentation with way more ambition than actual silicon? Let us know down in the comments. We really want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to Pro Robots so you don't miss how this story plays out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.